Welcome back to the Toppy Blues, your source for all things Everton. My name's Connor Williams, and we're back with another one of our 24/7 news report videos. I just want to say, if you caught last night and you watched it, you might have noticed there's some audio problems. Apologies for that. That was my fault. I hadn't fully plugged in my microphone. I did wonder why it was red. Probably the answer. So yeah, apologies on my behalf. And I will repeat some of the news we had from yesterday's in this. And it's been updated since then, but so it's not all yesterday's news, but it's a bit of both. But just want to get that out of the way. Apologies for that. So we start with the headline news, and Everton have registered their interest in signing Leicester City striker Kelechi Iheanacho. Leicester value the Nigerian at between 10 to 15 million pounds. It's come by a Footy Insider as well. Very interesting. We did run a poll on the Toffee Blues as always. We asked, what are your thoughts on INHEANACHO at Everton? 2,670 of you have voted so far. 76% said yeah, 11% said I don't know, and 13% said nope. Yeah, I like him. Good player. The second Nigerian we're after, I believe, in this roundup of the news. Definitely the second Nigerian striker we're after. I like him. He's tall. I think he'll do a job. I'm pretty sure, is he not one of the players that's almost definitely nailed on scores against us every time we play them? I know Vardy's got an incredible record against us, but I'm sure I remember Iheanacho getting a couple of goals past us. Not quite the Callum Wilson, Origi vibes, but he is up there for, goals, getting some goals against us in the past. But yeah, listen, if the price is right, Everton needs strikers, get him in. Next, we have that Manchester United had halved Anthony Elanga's asking price to 10 million, but inquiries from Nottingham Forest and Everton have driven that valuation up. That's come from Samuel Luckhurst, who is a journo for the Manchester Evening News. No surprise there, is it? As soon as somebody's interested, United are like, let's get a bid in more. Or they've gone, oh, maybe he's a bit worth a bit higher value. Really unfortunate for Everton. Nottingham Forest, go away. I'm sure we had this last year. All our targets are very similar to Forest's, and Forest just sweep them all up. I do remember this happening last year with Emmanuel Dennis, and a couple of others that they managed to get. And they brought that many players that they're now shipping some out. Stop doing that. And we also have from the Mail Sport on Elanga that Elanga has decided it is next club, and it's unlikely to be Everton. Now, if you put what Samuel Luckhurst has said in, maybe it's Forest. I don't see the massive difference between the two. If you're Elanga, if I was him, I'd prefer us. And you can stay in the Northwest. But both teams that were fighting relegation last season, obviously Forest got out of it a bit quicker than we did. Unless we get some serious reinforcements, I think we're going to be around Forest next season as well, anywhere from 12th, 10th, 12th down. So yeah, I can see that it's not like what I'm trying to say is it's not like his choice was Everton or Brighton. It wasn't. So yeah, interesting one that. Did speak to Jay Motti from the Stretford end, and he said he'd like Elanga to go to Everton and really kick on. He needs a break away from United. So if it's not Everton, whoever it is for Elanga's sake needs to be the right choice for him. The Mail Sport also reported that Demarai Gray is on his way off potentially, and that Everton are looking for a figure of around 12 million. Crystal Palace and clubs in Saudi Arabia are interested. Hopefully we can do what United have just done then and gone, well, if you're both after him, the price has gone up. And I don't see why not. If United are doing it, there's absolutely no reason for Everton not to do it. It actually would be really irritating if we didn't do it. The Mail also added that Crystal Palace is stepping up their interest and that Gray is ready for a fresh start after growing frustrated with his lack of first-team appearances at the end of last season. I think that was obvious, wasn't it, that Sean Dyche wasn't going to play him as much. I think it might be his inability to cross the ball as one of them. But listen, we got Gray for very cheap. He scored some worldies for us. He's scored in some big games. 12 million. I personally would be happy with that. We ran a poll on the Toffee Blues saying, would you be happy with 12 million for Demarai Gray? 3,147 of you voted on Twitter. 55% said yeah, 11% said I don't know, and 34% said no. So the majority still ruled that, that's a decent price when you need money, and we've made a profit on a player as well, which is absolutely mind-boggling because it's just not how Everton do business. So yeah, unfortunately, I do think Demarai Gray is probably best leaving. We also have the Everton have held talks with Danjuma from Villarreal. Crystal Palace also hold an interest in Danjuma. That came from the Mail. Then Peter O'Rourke, who's a very, very reliable journalist. I do like Peter O'Rourke. He said Everton are preparing a loan bid for Danjuma. Obviously, Danjuma, we know very, very well. I think AC Milan are rumoured to be sniffing around him as well. I wouldn't get your hopes up. This happened last year. He's been, twerking for us on social media, flirting and dancing. He did it last year. And as soon as something better came along, he said no. A couple of the optimists on Twitter have been saying he won't go to AC Milan because he might have learned his lesson from Spurs. But listen, it's AC Milan, isn't it? It's one of the greatest clubs in history. And it's a Champions League club. And it's, a giant in Italian football. And also Crystal Palace, who I don't know how he used Crystal Palace, but if AC Milan are up for him, then it's a no-brainer, and he has got form for doing this. So take Danjuma with a pinch of salt. At this point, I'll only believe he's signed with us when he's in his kit. We also have the Leeds news now on Gnonto. Leeds have already knocked back an approach from Everton for Gnonto and will try and resist future contact about him. Sources close to the discussions have denied a bid was ever made. Everton's interest was quickly rebuffed. Leeds value Gnonto in excess of 15 million. That's come from Phil Hay, who writes for The Athletic, covering Leeds. The Mail Sport also added on the Gnonto stuff, saying that Leeds have rejected the £50 million bid from Everton. Leeds have no interest in selling him. I'm not surprised because he's a very promising young lad. Listen, he's one of them where he literally could go either way because he's got that much build. He can either be a player that you go, do you remember him? A bit like an esque of a Moise Keane, a Sandro Ramirez, one of those where you go, remember him? Or he can go the other way and we're talking about him as like one of the world beaters of the world, and we can go, God, remember when we had him? He was unreal for us. Almost like a Lukaku was meant to go on to be. Listen, and I'm not surprised Leeds rejected 15 million. I think they realise his glass ceiling, his potential is way higher than a 15 million pound. I think Leeds are hoping they can hold him, and when he does leave Leeds, it will be for an elite club that he goes on to be the world beater. So they want to at least see him touch that potential, and I don't think he's there yet. So maybe Leeds are thinking holding for a season or two, unless they get a silly offer, which if it wasn't for the fact that I don't think we have any money, I think they'd get that from us, but I just don't see where the money's coming from for a silly offer. Next, we have that Everton are interested in Union St. Galouse striker Victor Boniface. Everton haven't made a bid yet for the 22-year-old Nigerian, but the player is open to a move. So this was the Nigerian player I was on about. This came via Sacha Tavaleri, I'm going to pronounce it as, the Belgian journalist. He is very good. He broke the Onana news pretty early on. He's very good when it comes to Belgian football and the Belgian league. This Boniface, I'm not going to lie to you and say I've seen loads, but I've seen that he fits the profile of big physical striker. And apparently he had a very, very good season in Europe as well as in the Belgian league. If he fits the profile, then albeit, you do have to be a little bit careful with the Belgian league because that Paul INHEANACHO, who plays for Southampton, came from there. And I'm not going to write him off because it was his first season, but he struggled. So Boniface might struggle, but the fact he did so well in Europe suggests maybe not. But I do expect him to maybe have to take a year to get his feet, which is the case with most footballers, unless you buy somebody who's Premier League proven and good, which, isn't going to happen. There is no agreement between Everton and Almira for El Bilal Toure, and if they want Toure, they'll have to pay close to the €40 million release clause. That's come from Marca in English. So that's not going to happen then. We won't be paying that. I don't think the club have got that type of money. I don't know if he's worth 40 million. We also have that West Ham midfield targets. One of them is Amado Onana, as well as a couple others. This has come from Jacob Steinberg, who writes for The Guardian. I'm not surprised by this. They've obviously lost Declan Rice and need to replace him. Onana is a fantastic replacement for him. If we sold Onana, who's our biggest prize asset other than Pickford, I do believe that we would then sort of leave ourselves in a position where we'd spend it on a striker, maybe on a winger, but then we'd have to look at another centre mid for cover, as he's our youngest centre mid, and we've seen Tom Davis leave and a couple of others. So yeah, but interesting. It does seem like Onana is going to get a lot of attention. We also have that Jordan Pickford said about him staying this summer. He said, definitely, I've just signed a new contract. I'm happy. My family's happy. So now I just want to move forward as a club. We knew he'd signed a new contract. It'd be very weird for the club to sell him off that. But it's great to hear it, isn't it, from the player's mouth. Fantastic player. Really saved us the last 2 seasons. And hopefully he can have another fantastic season for us. God knows you'll need a good season. I think he's going to be a busy boy. We also have that Preston North End have made Everton target Tom Cannon their top transfer target. That's come from Lancashire Live. Yeah, I think he was out on loan, wasn't he, last season there? Had a good season. Preston clearly like him. We've seen Ellis Sims going off to Coventry, who scored today as well. As the time of recording, it's the 18th of the 7th. He scored for Coventry in their pre-season. Listen, I think him and Dobbin, who I'm going to get onto in a minute, that they might be seen as sellable. Cannon was rumoured to be thought about for the first team, and I think he did appear in that friendly the other day in Switzerland. But if the price is right, I think the club will sell him because the club needs money. So watch that one there. Speaking of Lewis Dobbin, Dobbin was under consideration from EFL League One side Portsmouth. However, the wage contributions are too much for Portsmouth, and that's come from PN Jordan Cross, who's a journalist and writer for Portsmouth, for the Portsmouth News. Good player, Dobbin. Apparently he was always going to be better than Sims. But now it looks like we're getting rid of all the strikers at the club's youth level. So while we're struggling for a striker now, don't expect some young wonderkin to come up from the youth because we're selling them all. Yeah, listen, I'm not surprised Portsmouth couldn't afford his wages. I think he might be a little bit higher than Portsmouth. If I was Dobbin, I'd be aiming for a championship move. But I do think Dobbin falls under sellable asset here in this fire sale of the youth. But that is all we've got time for. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, comment down below your thoughts on anything I've mentioned. Again, apologies for yesterday's video audio issues. It's all good. You should be hearing me loud and clear coming through stereo. See you guys soon.